I remember it was a normal school day. Nothing of note. Then all of a sudden, school dismissed early. I remember feeling a bit confused, if a bit delighted, since it was a sunny autumn day. My mother picked me up, and that delight quickly faded as I heard the shaking in her voice. Something bad had happened, but I didn't know what. I soon came to find out. As I watched the television screen, the tears, the dust, the pain unfolding before me. The next day, I walked into my second grade home classroom to find it quiet and darkly lit. Being the excitable child that I was, I quickly asked my classmates if they heard about what happened, only to have one of my teachers gently ask me to be quiet. She explained that we wouldn't be talking just yet, and she instructed me in the activity we would be doing instead. Strewn across our desks were scraps of construction paper of varying colors, 2 to be exact, as I would come to find out. And on these smaller pieces, our teachers asked us to write the things that we love most about our country. Friendship was one of mine. Freedom was the next. I remember struggling with writing my F's, so these words stick out to me in particular. To my left and right, my friends and schoolmates did the same, some with tears in their eyes. That day was September 12th, 2001. We assembled those small pieces of construction paper along with those of the other classes to make an American flag, a composite piece of art that, last I checked, although it has been a little while, still adorns the wall in a main hallway at my school in Nashville. For the next 11 years, I passed by that American flag almost daily. Though tinged by the sad memory it carried, seeing our flag on that wall year after year filled me with a sense of pride that even at our young age, we had made a lasting mark, one of hope in the face of despair. In many ways, that flag helped transform my school from just a building into a special place. In Hebrew, a makom, a place with a lasting impact, where the past, present, and future all intermingled. The word makom in Hebrew carries a deep resonance in Jewish tradition. While it literally means place, the ancient sages transformed it into yet another name for God. Drawing from its biblical usage, hamakom, or the place, became a common term for God throughout rabbinic literature. Part of its power, as Dr. Ismar Skorsh, the Chancellor Emeritus of the Jewish Theological Seminary, explains, comes from its inherent tension. Hamakom is God that is always with us, not bound to a particular place. And as Rabbi Toba Spitzer notes in her book, God is Here, this name envisions God as a presence that is intimate and approachable. It is ha-makom that we call upon for comfort in times of mourning. When we say to those who mourn, ha-makom yenachem etchem betoch sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you with the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. It is a name for God that our ancient ancestors needed in the wake of the destruction of their most holy sites. A God whose presence they could feel no matter where they went. And yet there is a power in place. Even as we know we can feel God's presence with us anywhere, there is a certain kind of holiness in special places. But what makes a place holy? Is it simply geography, coordinates, or an address? Or is it what that space houses? The memories, the lives touched, the connections made. This year's High Holy Days will be the last in our worship spaces here at Temple Israel as they exist today. I invite you to look around, to soak in these moments. True, the changes will be slight. The beauty and majesty of our worship spaces will not change. But for just a moment, think of the memories that this place holds in its walls, on this bima, and yes, in the red carpet as well. How many holy moments have all of these seen? How many times have those words of comfort, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem, been spoken to bereft loved ones? How many broken hearts and broken glasses, tears of joy and tears of sorrow shed? This is indeed a dwelling place for God, made sacred not by some divine appointment, but by the community it houses, by you, by us, by the generations that came before. This question of place is actually quite familiar to our tradition. Perhaps the best representation of this is the Mishkan, or the tabernacle, the mobile home for God's presence assembled by the Israelites to accompany them in their wanderings in the wilderness. In Exodus we read, "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts from me from every person whose heart is so moved. Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them." Over and over, the people, described as Nadiv Lev, generous of heart, give and give, all to assemble something much larger than themselves. It is this act of giving that invites the divine presence to dwell amongst them. It was not only the beauty and majesty of the finished product, it was instead the fact that each member of the community, no matter their position, their background, their ancestry, each of them contributed a piece to this sacred artifact. How powerful it must have been for our ancestors to see with their eyes that without their contribution, the Mishkan would be incomplete, that they are an inextricable part of bringing God's presence into the world. I imagine it's a similar feeling to the one I had each time I passed by that American flag in the hallway. Each time I saw my handwriting, imperfect admittedly, on those strips of construction paper, that even with the misshapen letters, it was an integral piece of a larger symbol of hope and light. This is the power of community, the holy totality built from a conglomeration of smaller pieces, like the mosaic behind me or the tapestries hanging in the atrium just outside. This is the beauty that comes when people give from a generous heart to a project greater than the sum of its parts. Yet, while a mosaic or a tapestry are indeed fitting metaphors for a community, I feel they miss something crucial. You see, the thing about mosaics and tapestries is that once they are completed, they are fixed. And, particularly in the case of tapestries, they are fragile. Once they are complete, they must not be touched, only maintained. Mosaics and tapestries hang on walls, often guarded with glass or barriers. There is a sense that once completed, they have reached perfection, no longer requiring augmentation or revision. But this is not the case with a community. A community is not fixed. It is a living, breathing organism, one that must be continually shaped and enlivened by its members. So instead of metaphors drawn from art and architecture, we might wish to turn instead to the language of biology. In his 2022 book, The Song of the Cell, Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee describes the transformational impact of the discovery of the cell in the 17th century, giving us a new understanding of our world and of ourselves. He says that we learned that complex living organisms are assemblages of tiny, self-contained, self-regulating units, living compartments, if you will, or living atoms. He continues, humans are ecosystems of these living units. We are pixelated assemblages, composites, our existence the result of a cooperative agglomeration. I had to look that word up. We are a sum of parts. Just as the rabbis taught that the Mishkan was a microcosm of creation, a miniature representation of the whole world, I think we can also expand the findings of modern biology into a much larger scale, seeing the whole of our community as similar to a body, a thrumming, living thing composed of smaller, unique pieces, each with their own particular identity, each with their own gift to give. Over the course of his book, Dr. Mukherjee catalogs the different kinds of cells that comprise human beings, discussing the cells of the heart, which he calls citizen cells. He explains the heart's cells form an orchestral citizenship. Each cell of the heart muscle maintains its identity, but each cell is so intimately connected to the next that when the impulse to contract arrives, the contraction is purposeful and coordinated. An orchestral citizenship. What a powerful image. One that I believe in our highest ideals we strive towards as a congregational community. In so many ways, this place, this makom, serves as the heart of our community, a place made holy through the presence of the people who give to it and gather in its chambers. To be a heart, it must serve as a home to this orchestral citizenship, a makom that builds intimate connections between people like those citizen cells. But without these cells, without these connections, without you, it is not a heart. It is simply a place, a building, a set of bricks and wood, and yes, red carpet. Now I know what you may be thinking. Oh, Rabbi is using all this nice language, all this talk about cells and mosaics and giving, just to ask us for money. Rest assured, I am not. I am not here to make a pitch for a high holy day pledge or to direct you to envelopes in your prayer books, as is the case in many congregations at this time of year. Yes, financial contributions are needed and appreciated. As the ancient rabbis taught, ein kemach, ein Torah. If there is no flour, no bread, there can be no sacred community. But I am here this evening to make a different ask. I am asking you to give to this congregation in other ways. To give of your time, your attention, your knowledge and creativity, those gifts that only you can bring, and perhaps most importantly, to give the gift of your presence. It may be tempting to think of this place as a given, an inevitability that was, is, and always will be, a certainty almost to the level of death and taxes, as goes in the common adage. But it is not. It needs its cells, its orchestrated citizenship. It needs the sacred power of people coming together to bring God's presence into our world, to share in life's burdens as well as its greatest joys. In order for this place to continue to be a makom, it needs you. If cells, organs, tapestries, and mosaics don't quite resonate, let us look instead to the vocabulary of business. It is quite common to hear business terms used in the synagogue world, and that's a good thing. There's much to be learned, best practices and innovations that come from the world of commerce. But I have often heard it said that we should think of congregants as customers, and each time I hear it, I balk a little bit. Because it is a misnomer. It is not correct. Congregants are not customers. Congregants are shareholders, people who have a vested interest in the present and future of this place and this community. There is a reason we say that we belong to a congregation, not subscribe to one. Temple Israel is not another subscription like Netflix or Amazon Prime. It is a partnership, a living, breathing mosaic, continually shaped by its citizen cells. The reality is that in this digital age, what it means to be a congregation has changed drastically. In this world of streaming and online communities, what it means to belong to a Jewish community is different than what it once was. The COVID pandemic brought with it challenges as well as some blessings. It showed us how we can feel connected even when we are physically apart. And it is because of these blessings our reach as a congregation can extend to embrace those watching from afar, those lying in hospital beds, or members of our congregational family across the country and the world, all of whom continue to feel a deep connection to this place, to this makom. Even with these blessings, there is immense power in presence, physical presence. Because while we might be able to embrace you from afar, we cannot feel your embrace here. The power of presence rests, in part, in possibility. We can never know the impact we have on one another when we gather, the meaning that can be made with a hug, a handshake, a warm smile, a simple question asking after someone's well-being. Many likely don't recognize the impact that you have on us as rabbis and our entire temple team here. The sacred spark that can only come from connecting with people in person. The synagogue has been the most lasting and impactful Jewish institution in 2 millennia. This is not because of rabbis, clergy, or staff. It is because of its shareholders. It is because of you, its members, continually giving from a generous heart to build and grow this mishkan, a makom where we may find and feel the presence of hamakom, of God. What it means to be a synagogue in 2024 or 5785 is undoubtedly different from what it has been in the past. It is a challenge that we must all meet, not just staff and clergy, all of us. The Temple Israel that will be in the future is not possible without you, without the unique gifts that only you can give. So this year, I want to invite you into this partnership, so that together we can answer the question of what it means to be a holy congregation in the 21st century. This year, I invite you to give with a generous heart, to claim your piece of our congregational tapestry, to be a part of our orchestral citizenship, to be shareholders and partners in shaping the Temple Israel that will be. So let us continue to build this living makom together. Ken yehi ratzon, may it be God's will. Ken yehi ratzonenu, may it also be our will. Let us say together. Amen.